cover. So welcome everybody. My name is Lisa Rodacher. I'm the Assistant Dean for Admissions here at Washington and Lee University School of Law. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today and really to be joined by this great group of panelists. We have some wonderful members from the Office of Career Strategy and some wonderful students, and they all are excited to give you their perspectives. So just for a couple of quick housekeeping comments, we have some questions that we wanted to make sure to go through and to give our panelists a chance to comment on, but we're also really interested in this being as helpful to you all as possible. We know that there are people who are at different points in the process on this call, and so we want to make sure that you get the information that you are seeking. So please feel free to put your questions into the chat or utilize the Q&A feature. I will be moderating that discussion and helping to feed those questions to our panelists when possible. And our Assistant Dean for Career Strategy, Dean Frida Coleman Jackson, is going to be leading our conversation, and she and the panelists are going to start by introducing themselves. So without further ado, Dean Frida Coleman Jackson.
Thank you so much, Dean Rodacher. The Office of Career Strategy is always happy to partner and team with the entire admissions team. And congratulations to everyone on the call for making the decision to pursue law school as your next step. So that's wonderful to see. And I'm so excited that you get to hear from these amazing, hardworking students here on the call in just a moment. You'll see in my name description OCS, but that stands for the Office of Career Strategy. We affectionately call it OCS around here. Between my name and the name of the office, it's a mouthful. So we try and make it easy on you. But our office is really here to help encourage, motivate, provide resources and guidance for students at all steps along the internship, job search process, post-grad. And we really always stay in contact with our students and our alums. And we help students in terms of identifying internship opportunities for the summer, opportunities to work during the semester, and obviously things post-grad when you're nearing that graduation time. And we do that through one-on-one advising, small group advising, cover letter, resume workshops. We really just try and provide the resources that students need. We'll get into more about our office as we go along in the panel today, but just wanted to share that we really enjoy supporting our students. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Natalie and have her introduce herself, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm Natalie. I am a current 3L. For some background, I'm from Wayne, Pennsylvania, which is near Villanova University, if anybody knows that. I went to William & Mary for my undergrad degree. I graduated from there in 2019, and I worked in Washington, D.C. for 3 years before attending law school. And for my 1L summer, I interned for a judge, a federal judge in Roanoke, which is only an hour from Lexington. So it was nice to be nearby. And then for my 2L summer, I worked for a law firm in Washington, D.C. called Arnold & Porter. And that is where I will be heading after graduation in May of 2025. Did I miss anything? Did I get anything? Oh, and involvement at school. I currently serve as a Ratchford Fellow, and I can jump into more about that, but I partner with OCS, which is why I'm excited to be here today. And otherwise, I am a member of the Women's Law Student Organization at school, and I also participate in our law school flag football league. I am a member of the student organization that puts on all of that good stuff, and hopefully you'll get to hear more about that. It's very unique to W&L. And I will kick it over to Jane.
Thanks, Natalie. Hello, my name is Jane Kim. I'm originally from Old Tappan, New Jersey, which is the super northern part of New Jersey. I also stayed in state. I am, if you ever hear me talk, don't get me started on Jersey. So I stayed in state for college, attended the College of New Jersey. Originally thinking I was going to be a teacher, but here we are. So I'm what you call, maybe you referred to or heard of it, I'm a KJD. So unlike Natalie, who took some work experience off, I went straight through from college to law school. And so I was at TCNJ, made the switch over to W&L right afterwards. My first year summer, I was at a nonprofit in New York called the National Center for Access to Justice, which focused on a lot of policy work and policy reformation with a legal framework, and how we could hopefully reform our policies to include civil legal assistant because that's not guaranteed in our constitution. But I was there for the 1L summer. It was in Fordham's law school. So we were in Manhattan. For my 2L summer, I was with the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, located in Brooklyn, New York, which I will also be returning to in 2025 to start my prosecution career. I see where the pause. I think I got involvement as well. Okay, we do the same. So I was a little bit involved. Currently, I am a member of the Moot Court Upper Board as the vice chair of external competitions, helping students get opportunities to compete externally in these competitions nationally and other schools. I'm also the coach for our Jessup Moot Court International team, which is a internationally renowned Jessup Moot Court competition. Prior to that, I was a competitor last year. I'm also involved in our affinity group, APALSA, the Asian Pacific American Law Student Association. I was also previously a part of ILS, the International Law Society. And what else I'm going to say? I was a Curtis Fellow last year, which hopefully you guys will be able to experience. What a unique opportunity that WNL has. But I was also competing in mock trial last year and am currently on GLJ as a senior article editor. Amazing.
Yeah, Shane, it's hard to follow that up. You're a superstar. Oh my gosh. Hi everyone, my name is Nathan Hasty. I'm a 2L here at WNL. I'm from the Bahamas, Nassau, Bahamas, born and raised. Came to the US at 17 to go to the University of Florida. I studied history there. Go Gators, yes. I studied history at UF. And I came straight through as well, KJD, just like Shane. Let's see, what else was there? My involvement on campus is that I am currently a Curtis Fellow, so I'm what Jane was last year. If you don't know what that is, every year there are about 12 students that are selected to be sort of peer mentors for the incoming class. And I actually just left a Curtis meeting right before this where we were telling we call them our kids, but we were telling them about exams, how to outline, anything like that. So they're a little bit stressed about exams right now, but I believe they're going to make it through. So I'm involved in Curtis Fellows. I'm a staff writer on WNL Law Review. I'm involved in BALSA, which is the Black Law Students Association, as a member and as the coach for our mock trial team. BALSA has the opportunity to send 1Ls to competitions, which is not something that you otherwise would be able to do. So that's great that I get to work with that. I'm also a co-president of SIPLS, which is the Sports Entertainment Intellectual Property Law Society. We have a lot of societies with a lot of initials, and we send students to competitions as well, typically negotiations competitions. I competed last year in New Orleans at Tulane, where at a basketball negotiation competition, which is essentially we would flip-flop between agent side and player side, and we'd argue contracts like, does James Harden deserve a $36 million contract next season? And if that sounds like fun to you, then you should come to WNL and join Cyples. So yeah, that's what I'm involved in. Am I forgetting anything? Maybe. Oh yeah, I am forgetting something because Natalie brought it up. I am also a part of the Law School Flag Football League, only I'm on the team that just beat Natalie's team in the championship last week. So back-to-back champs, baby.
That's true. That's worth sharing. I will take it. They
Yeah.
deserved it.
Most important part of your law school experience is being part of flag football, right? No.
Yes, yes.
But as you all can hear, each of the students on the panel are rock stars in their own right. And I know that all of you that are applying to WNL are accomplished in your own right as well. And so don't be intimidated by their accomplishments. It's definitely been something that they have pursued and found their passions and really found where they enjoy and where they can be successful. And I think that's the thing that's so amazing about law school is you could have varying interests, have varying backgrounds, but you can kind of all come to this place and get a chance to get all this exposure and to get all of this experience and really find what you're passionate about. So I love hearing about what the last year, 2 years have looked like for each of our students. So again, as Nathan said, law school, half the battle is learning all these acronyms, all of this terminology. And so one of those terms that we talk about here in the Office of Career Strategy is a Ratchford Fellow, which Natalie is one of those. And so Natalie, if you could please tell us a little bit about what a Ratchford Fellow is and what that role entails for you and your peers.
Sure. So it has been my honor to serve for this year as a Ratchford Fellow and get to work with Dean Coleman Jackson. But I also work with 3 other 3Ls. So there are 4 of us in total, and we serve as liaisons between the Office of Career Strategy and the student body at large. Our focus is often on supporting the 1Ls, but we do support 2Ls and our peers, the 3Ls, as they continue to pursue postgraduate employment and clerkship opportunities. So we really serve as resources, and one of the best things that I like about it is getting to edit people's resumes, because we know that when you apply to law school, you had to put together a resume, but they look a little bit different when you start applying to legal jobs, and everybody's sometimes a little surprised by that. But that's basically the easiest editing job that there is, because all we get to do is reformat and tell you how to jazz it up and turn your skill set into something that a legal employer might want to see. So that's probably my favorite part of the job. Of course, I enjoy counseling and meeting with 1Ls, but getting to turn all of their really great experiences on paper into something that translates into a hireable explanation of their skill set is really rewarding for me. And so we do resume workshops, cover letter workshops, and we work really hard to make sure that our students are putting their best foot forward when they go through the application process.
Thanks, Natalie. I'm going to ask Jane and Nathan in just a moment what their interactions were with Ratchford Fellows in the past. But Natalie, can you maybe expand upon what just happened yesterday with the cover letter workshop? And then can you talk about how the Ratchford Fellows really help OCS stay connected with the students via things like social media, Instagram, just so, you keep us up with the times?
Yes. Yeah. So we just had a cover letter workshop yesterday. So one of the OCS staff members gave a presentation to talk about the ingredients in a successful cover letter. We like to say there's no such thing as a good cover letter, but there is such a thing as a bad cover letter. So you want to make sure that you aren't hurting your chances by having typos or the wrong law firm name in there. So we give all sorts of tips and tricks like that. And then after our presentation portion, we had one-on-one consultations, 15 minutes a piece, and 1Ls could sign up, bring a draft of a cover letter, and meet with any of the 4 Ratchford Fellows to just go through line by line. And we can tell them if they're on the right track or if they should consider rephrasing things about their experience, having good topic sentences, things like that. And then one of the things that we have just rolled out a couple weeks ago is called Fellows on the Feed. And it's an Instagram story campaign that we're doing where on Wednesdays, anybody that follows us on our Office of Career Strategy Instagram account can ask a question and we'll answer it. So it can be really anything, but we are tailoring it towards job advice, resume advice, cover letter advice on how to manage the crazy world of trying to apply to jobs while being a 1L and learning how to do school, because that is truly the biggest challenge there is in this first semester of trying to balance all the coursework and learn how to be a student, but also understanding that the reason a lot of us are in school is to get that big lawyer job. So what do we need to do to make both of those things successful? Does that help?
That was great, Natalie. Thank you so much for giving a little bit of insight into what you do. And I have to tell you, working with the Ratchford Fellows is one of the best parts of my job here in OCS. They're so creative, they're so talented, and they really, it's been a while since I've been in law school, let's just put it that way. and they're much more connected to the experience and can really identify with what's going on with the 1Ls and 2Ls. And so we're really, really lucky to have that peer advising. So Jane and Nathan, just thinking about back to your experiences early on, what were some of your interactions and how did you interact with the Ratchford Fellows?
Nathan, you're closer to 1L years, so I'll let you go first.
Um, so I actually realized that I forgot to mention where I worked last summer. But I worked for a federal judge in Norfolk, Judge Jamar K. Walker. He's a district court judge. And I'll be going back there for not to that courthouse, but I'll be there for Woods Rogers, which is a law firm in Norfolk, Virginia. And all of those opportunities were given to me because of how much I used the Ratchford Fellows and OCS. Um, it took me probably a month, maybe 2 months of just refining my cover letter and my resume. Um, as a KJD, I only knew how to apply to colleges. I didn't know how to apply for a job. And I didn't realize how different those two things would be. And so I was able to speak with people that had been through the exact same experience as me, which I thought was really, really helpful. 1Ls have the opportunity to go up to Natalie and be like, what job did you have last summer? How did you frame your cover letter to target a judge? How did you frame it to target this firm? I didn't realize that my cover letter had to be so different depending on who I was applying to. So these are all things that you really get to learn by communicating with the Ratchford Fellows and with OCS that I was really grateful for. And I was really, really grateful for the fact that OCS's office is in a very prominent spot on campus. It's hard to not walk past it. So their doors would always be open, and I would frequently just walk in and I'd be like, hey, can you look at my resume for 2 seconds? And that was a great way for me to stay on top of everything and get the advice that I needed.
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry.
Oh,
You
no,
calling
you're
back
fine.
in?
Go ahead, Jane. I was just going to say thanks, Nathan. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I won't hammer too much on what my colleagues have already said. I think for me, the biggest, obviously on top of those mentioned, was just the connections. I think that the Ratchford Fellows offer as they're uniquely placed as students who have sort of the specialized knowledge of their own experience and being able to, have the inner workings of OCS at the same time. I think for me, I was really lucky my first year and my second year and even the third year, like all the Ratchford Fellows are very personable people who have a presence on campus, that have relationships with them. And so the second biggest, I think, help that I got was just like word of mouth, like, oh, you're interested in X position. Well, I know Y person who has been there, or I know Y person has experience interviewing with them or has had an internship with them. Let me connect you to. And it's like quite it's a very personal and intimate connection for a student to connect another student, whereas like it's not as like top down or anything like that. It was very natural, it was very personable. And so yeah, just like having another board, so to speak. I'm an external processor, and so as someone who didn't really know what he wanted to do coming into law school, I had like literal friends with high level of knowledge being like, I don't know, what do you think about this? You know me. Do you think I'd thrive in X? Do you think I'd thrive in Y? I'm looking for this. Which do you think would be the best fit for me? And so I think just truly having a colleague, another peer, in a space and a place to be able to help you think through things, and like, yeah, it's just like an intimate level of like relationship that I really valued working with the Ratchford Fellows.
Thanks, Jane. And kind of, I was going to say, you can leave yourself off of mute because I'm going to come back to you. But thinking about the Ratchford Fellows as a resource, what are some other W&L kind of associated resources within this community that you really feel like have been instrumental to you in your own personal kind of search? Just, beyond your peers, but just the community at large.
Absolutely. Dean Coleman Jackson, from experience how bouncing off the walls I was. So I think the biggest source of help was networking and calls. And so our alumni network is huge. We have a lot of alumni in a lot of different places. And I think the unique perspective our alumni have is that they are so willing to help you. Like the minute you say, I am at WNL, they're like, all hands on deck. Let me get you in touch with this person. I've had so many 30-minute networking calls, and I'm like, it's 30 minutes. I don't want to waste your time anymore. They're like, no. And we talk for like an hour and a half because they understand what law school is like. They understand the unique struggles of finding a career, right? After being in school for 3 years. And so the first and foremost, I think, are the alumni that are like truly willing to help. There's like an executive on Audible because at one point I was like, maybe I want to do in-house later down the line. What does that look like? What classes would I take? What post-grad job should I take? I find out I didn't maybe want to do that. I networked with too many, I think, big law firm or just firm individuals who are willing to be candid and dished out their advice and their perspective on their jobs. But in addition to our alumni, I think our professors are huge. They also, I think, is really unique. A lot of them have had like high spec, high profile careers in the law and then have turned to teaching. And so it's not like they are sort of just hearing from secondhand like what it's like to be in a field that they're teaching about. It's like they're like cornerstone individuals in the fields that they're teaching on. And so for them too, as a professor who has seen you in class, has seen your performance, being like, hey, Jane, I think from our class you excelled at X. Maybe think about Y, right? Or maybe this wouldn't be something you'd be interested in. Or knowing you, I don't think you would thrive in X kind of setting. And so it's truly the alumni and professors that help me. And of course, OCS, Dean Coleman Jackson and I had numerous calls and numerous just walk-ins. I'm like, I don't know what to do. My life is falling apart. Please help. And she's like, "Ooh, take a deep breath." But just the staff here is like truly amazing. The alumni, the professors, OCS, like they're all willing. They're all in your corner, which is, I think, a unique perspective.
And I remember those days of 1L year, and I just have to share quickly, we won't go into details, but Jane really was committed to having a particular experience for 1L summer and had some opportunities early on. And she decided to really persevere. And she said no to some things and ended up really having a wonderful first summer job. And I have so much respect and admiration for Jane for really staying committed to her goals when she could have taken the first opportunity. So that's just a testament to how strong of an applicant was that she had options, which is wonderful.
No, I think it's a testament to Dean Coleman Jackson because I know she was like, this girl isn't taking a job and it's like April. Like, what is she doing? She needs an internship.
But it worked out. It worked out. And look at you and where you are now. Nathan, can you talk about some of the resources here in the community that have been supportive of you? I know the Curtis Fellow program is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, the whole reason that I'm a Curtis Fellow is because I loved my Curtis Fellows. They're super helpful. So WNL usually will split up the 1L classes into about 6 sections, and then there will be 2 Curtis Fellows per section. And my 2 Curtis Fellows were really, really helpful in I could text them whenever I wanted. They would help me out, go above and beyond. They'd send me practice interview questions, everything. And so they were really, really helpful. But sort of like what Jane was saying, I think the broader community at large is the biggest resource that's helpful is that I was speaking to 3Ls. And my thought process was, I'm this 21-year-old kid that's applying for summer jobs. Why would these 3Ls want to talk to me? And they were really they did everything to try and connect me with people. They'd read over my cover letters. They'd text judges and clerks and be like, "Hey, this kid's applying here," and That's just not something that I was expecting, especially coming from such a large school like UF, where that sense of community is much more in smaller circles rather than the whole school at large. Um, Another thing that I didn't realize was so beneficial until I got here was the connections that we have with professors. Like Jane was saying, these professors have had really, really amazing careers. They will casually be talking to you and be like, "Yeah, so yesterday I was chatting with your casebook author about this problem," and you're like, "What?" Um, but they're just like, "Yeah, I went to school with XYZ," or when I was working on the Hill, I was across the hall from Brett Kavanaugh. And you're like, how do you know Supreme Court justices? This is insane. But I know right now that I could text one or two professors and they would respond to me very quickly and they would give me as much feedback and help as I wanted. And that's something that I love about the school.
That's so wonderful to hear about your experience, Nathan. I think you really put it in a great perspective. It can be intimidating being a first year student, and coming from such a large place like a UF or a school of
Yeah.
that size, and maybe not always having your professors be that accessible. You have to usually go through a TA or something, right? And just you taking that initiative and really following up and utilizing those resources, I think is a testament to your initiative and how much like foresight you had for your goals. So I think a lot of that is kudos to you as well. Natalie, can you talk about your experience connecting with the WNL law community?
Yeah, certainly. I will echo everything that Jane and Nathan have shared. So the one other thing to add that hasn't been touched on yet is the clerkship committee. The professors at our school, as my colleagues have said, have had incredible careers, and a lot of them have clerked for judges all over the country and are willing to offer their own insight and experience into the application process, their connections when you are applying. So there are several professors that will read your clerkship application cover letters. They will go over your writing samples with you and generally just discuss a strategy for how to go about the application process. And of course, OCS can help with it too. But the fact that we have a group of dedicated professors that want to really get into the nitty gritty with us is really, really special. I think WNL punches above its weight with clerkships. I think we are really impressive when you look at our clerkship numbers, and I think that is in no small part due to this group of professors. And I can speak from personal experience when I was hoping to receive an interview with a judge. I told one of my professors that I had just submitted my application, and he said, "Oh my gosh, she was in my 1L small section back at UVA. Like, I'll give her a call." And I was like, "No way." So he called and talked to her and told me like that they basically just caught up for 20 minutes. And then she said, "Oh, of course I'm going to interview your student. No worries." And so they had a wonderful discussion, and it was a really, really great experience getting to meet the judge. So anyway, that's my additional tidbit about the support of our community.
That's awesome, Natalie. I mean, you never know, right? Yeah, where those connections might lie. I want to take and pause for just a moment and check in with Dean Rodacher. Do we have any questions that have come through or the chat or the Q&A that we should address to the panel?
I think so far we are flowing well, so keep going. And I do encourage our listeners to go ahead and put their questions into the chat. And if I can't answer them, I am definitely going to feed them to our panel. So please feel free, but you all go on ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dean Rodacher. And so again, I might pick back up with you, Natalie, and if you can kind of put your pre-law hat back on. I know you had some work experience. Did you come into law school knowing exactly what you wanted to do, having had a little bit of that exposure to the industry? Did you know, and did that change, or have you stayed pretty true to what you thought you would be doing?
Yes. So my come to law school story is a little funny. I did not always think I wanted to be a lawyer. I took a job after college working at a law firm in their legal recruiting department, which is a whole industry that I didn't know anything about. I had no idea that these big, big law firms have entire HR teams dedicated to getting the best talent. But I worked with them for 3 years, and in those 3 years, I got not only exposure to really brilliant attorneys, but also I got to interact with law students. And as a young person out of college, I was like, gosh, they seem pretty cool and they seem like they know what they want to do with their lives. Maybe I'll think about that. And so, long story short, getting to meet so many incredible people in the context of this big law firm environment um, helped me to make the decision to apply to law school. And I had always known I might go back to a graduate school program, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be law school. And ultimately, this exposure helped me to make that decision. So, that being said, I'm kind of one of those people that came to law school because I wanted law school, not necessarily because
Did she freeze on you guys' end as well?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
You
Well,
threw it in the middle of a great comment.
I
I
know.
know.
I can tell. Well, hopefully Natalie will be able to reconnect with us here
Yeah.
shortly and share that thought. But again, as you could hear, she was saying that she really got to kind of see from the employer side a little bit of what this experience would be like. And I think she probably saw herself in those students that she was working with. So oops, it looks like she might be
She's back.
Natalie. We
She's
were
back.
on the cusp
We
of
were
our
waiting.
seats
We were
waiting.
waiting.
Yeah, that was a
oh,
big
sorry.
cliffhanger.
It
Can
is.
you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, that's so anticlimactic. I'm sorry.
It's
No,
okay,
no,
it
no.
happens.
Perfect.
Where was I?
So you were just kind of saying you saw, the talent and thinking for yourself, and that's kind of where you were left
Yes.
off. Yeah.
I was saying that I made the decision to come based on that exposure. But I'm unique, I guess, because my choice to come to law school was specifically about school rather than the decision to become a lawyer. I am still figuring out what kind of lawyer I want to be. But I am going to a big corporate law firm where they will put me to work in their general litigation practice, and then I will actually get to specialize after 3 years. I will do a little bit of everything, and then after the third year, we'll get the chance to develop a more niche practice area. So, no, I wasn't someone that always dreamed of being a lawyer, but I am very, very happy to have found this side of my brain and this wonderful community of people.
It suits you well, Natalie, but I appreciate you sharing that you're still in a little bit of that. I'm figuring this out. I'm still getting this exposure. I'm still learning. And so I think that's really okay for people to realize that the training and the skills and just the broad-based knowledge and, training you how to think like a lawyer, that really does exist. And that really does give you the flexibility to do so many things with this law degree. So I appreciate that perspective. Now I'm gonna have to reorient myself because you're in a different Zoom box now.
Sorry, everyone. I don't know what happened.
No, it's okay. Nathan, can you talk a little bit about kind of was law school always on the radar because you did some mock trial work in undergrad. So tell us a little bit about how you kind of made that connection.
Yeah, so I guess I'm somewhat on the opposite end of Natalie. I didn't know that I wanted to go to law school once I came to undergrad. I actually went to UF as an electrical engineering major. Yeah, I know, surprise, Nathan has a brain. But I actually changed once I experienced mock trial. So I was a member of the UF mock trial team, who has the benefit of having the coolest mock trial team name ever, the Litigators, which is pretty sick. But we would travel around the country, we'd compete against other schools, we would get a fact pattern that was essentially rotated between a criminal case and a civil case. And I would be in actual courtrooms. I've been to the Fulton County Courthouse a number of times. I've been to DC. I've been all over the place, competing in front of real lawyers, real judges. So I sort of knew that I wanted to be in a courtroom. And that hasn't changed. I knew that the thing that I enjoyed about the law was the arguing aspect of it, of standing there and presenting your case, standing for objections, that sort of thing. But law school was still extremely helpful for me in understanding what that actually looks like in real life. Because at the end of the day, mock trial is exactly that, mock. It's fake. It's not what real life is like. Um, and so my summer opportunity actually helped me the most, like nail down that that's what I wanted to do, because I got to see what litigation actually looks like. Not only did I get to see court every single day, I got to see how judges rule. I got to see how my judge made his decisions, what went into his thought process when he was writing his opinions. I got to see the briefs from both parties. And I didn't realize how much writing was actually involved in litigating, and that most cases don't even go to trial. So I got to appreciate the ways that I could make an argument without actually saying a word out loud, through that brief writing, through that legal research, and I sort of fell in love with those things. So it really hampered down that I definitely want to be a litigator, but I recognize that that's not necessarily how most people come in. I think most people come in, and it's okay if you don't know what the difference is between litigation and transactional. Law school will teach you all of those things.
I appreciate hearing that, Nathan, because again, that 1L judicial internship experience or whatever people do their 1L summer, that really is supposed to inform you and say, and oftentimes I say finding out what you don't like is just as important as finding out what you do like. But it's so good that you were able to have that experience, kind of see that insider view and perspective, which helped, at least in your case, affirm what you wanted to do. But I think it also would have been like, okay, maybe this isn't for me, but I think that 1L summer can just really be that exploration that allows you to kind of figure out where your strengths and interests may lie. Jane, can you talk a little bit about just maybe what pre-law Jane thought versus now 3L Jane?
Yeah, I'm actually probably in the middle of Natalie and Nathan. So I don't know if I don't think I've mentioned this to anyone here, but the reason I even thought about law school, I mentioned earlier, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a high school teacher, just because my high school teacher really helped high school Jane be comfortable in her skin, recognize that there's life outside of school, outside of grades. And so I was like, wow, he like was such a great mentor to me. I want to be that for other students. Went to college with the educational background. And then because I was a history and secondary education double major, I was taking history classes. And one of the classes that like double counted for both my majors was a constitutional law class. And so I took it, and that professor, she runs that class like truly like was almost like verbatim what one of our like what our 1L con law class looks like. Like she runs it like a law class, and I enjoyed it. I was excited to go to class every day. I was excited to do the readings for class. And one day after the midterm, my professor was like, Jane, come see me in the office. I was like, I failed this midterm. I failed this exam. I'm not gonna pass. Oh my God, what did I do? And she essentially sat me down, asked me what my career plans were. And I was like, I'm gonna be a high school teacher. I don't want to do any more. I actually am the opposite of that. I didn't want to do any more schooling. I'm done. I want to just graduate and do work. And so she said to me, I think you'd be an amazing teacher. I think you have the skill sets to be a high level teacher. I also do think you'd be a very good candidate for law school. I think you'd be an amazing lawyer. She had a mock. She actually had a mock appellate, like a moot level. Like she mooted us essentially as one of her assignments. And so she told me to think about law school, and that even if I went to law school and like no longer wanted to do law, there was a lot of opportunities that could happen. Like I could teach at a college with a law degree. I could teach at a high school, probably get paid more with a law degree, right? And so I took the LSAT and was like, if I get a terrible score, that is fine. I will not do this. I didn't, and we ended up here. And so it wasn't. I didn't have. I don't. I'm a first gen, so I don't really have family as law, I don't really have too many. Like what I recognized after I got into law school that I do have a fair amount of lawyers around me, but it wasn't anything on my radar. And so in terms of what I wanted to do, right, I think I found the common link was I wanted to be a teacher to help students. And it was the same thing. I want to help people, which is very broad. But I knew that, like in my gut, I wanted to be someone in public interest. I wanted to be someone um, who could maybe not necessarily change the world, but even if it's getting one victim a chance to have their case heard, right? Or if it's one individual who can't afford legal service, give that one person the legal services that they're entitled to. And so that was my transition. My mentor, I owe a lot to her. We're still in touch. But yeah, my pre-law hat was I kind of just trusted my gut. So yeah, not very helpful. I'm so sorry.
No, you're great, Jane. I even knew that back about you as
Mm,
well, but I love how one professor, kind of, one advisor can really be that motivation and that encouragement. And I think that oftentimes in law school, like our panel was saying earlier, you sit down, you get in a conversation with your professor, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. Like, this sounds like an amazing career path. I want to learn more about that. And people end up pursuing it. Thinking about that, Natalie, can you share? I know you are doing a judicial externship this semester. Can you maybe talk about that experience and maybe some other courses or co-curricular activities that you feel like have really helped you as you kind of prepare to re-enter the workforce now as a new lawyer?
Yes. I can absolutely touch on the judicial externship program, but my immediate thought when I heard your question was the legal writing classes at WNL. So I will let my other colleagues talk about legal writing, but I think something that's great about WNL is that we have to take legal writing both semesters. It is a graded course. I think there are other law schools that do pass fail for legal writing, which again, every school is different, but I think the fact that our classes are graded incentivizes our students to try really hard with legal writing, because it's not just a pass or fail grade, and that pays dividends when you go to work for your summer job, because you realize that you have actually engaged with learning how to be a persuasive legal writer within your first year of school. So again, if anybody else wants to touch on legal writing, please do. But that is the fundamental course that, as much as, yes, learning the law, the substantive law is important in your first year, writing is equally, if not more so. But one of the other really great perks about WNL is our actual practice requirement. 3Ls have this requirement that they should meet before graduation, and we all get to choose through kind of a lottery preferential system what type of actual practice we would like to engage in for our final year of school. So one of those is a judicial externship. There are prosecutorial externships. I will let Jane talk about what she's up to right now. So there are different there are clinics on our campus that you can work for, and there are limited number of spots for every single type of actual practice, but everybody kind of gets sorted into one. And mine is a judicial externship, and I am working for a state court judge in Roanoke, and I go 1 day a week. And just like Nathan alluded to, how formative it can be to get to see court in person, I'm getting to do that on a weekly basis for the entirety of my 3L year. So that has been so helpful in just seeing good lawyering, seeing bad lawyering, seeing how my judge conducts herself, just getting a broader understanding of how the law works, understanding more about the criminal process. Sometimes that's been just so interesting to me, and I didn't think that I would like criminal law when I came to law school. So all of those things, I hope I'm not frozen. My Zoom just did something weird. Okay. But all of those things have been really, really formative for me in understanding both. I got to work at a federal court during my 1L summer, and now this is a state court during my 3L year. So WNL has given me so many opportunities to feel like I'm actually out in the world, getting to see how the practice of law works and tacking in all the writing experience too. I've had to write things for my judge. So again, can't say enough good things about that kind of instructional opportunity that we have here.
No, that's great to hear, Natalie, that you've been able to have this experience and you talk about just how foundational the legal writing program is. That is truly, truly a skill that I feel like students just get better at, right, over time as well. Nathan, can you talk a little bit? I know you've already shared a lot of your moot court experience, but can you tell us a little bit more about what your experience has been like being on law review and really what that opportunity was and maybe why you decided that you wanted to pursue that?
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw me fiddling around a bit. I have right in front of me the blue book. This is what my experience has been on law review. I actually have site checks due tonight. But I'm saying a lot of words that if you are not in the law school sphere, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But these words will haunt you forever. No, I'm just messing. Basically, what Law Review is it's a student-run journal here on campus. And every school, or just about every school, has one. WNL has three journals. So we have the Washington Lee Law Review, we have GLJ, which is the German Law Journal, and then we have JCRSJ, which is the Journal of Civil Rights and Social Justice. And essentially, what those journals do is they compile legal academic articles from across the country. Different professors, legal scholars will write articles, and then we publish it. And the student's job on that journal is essentially to be proofreaders and editors for this work. And that means mainly editing citations at the lower level. We trust that the professors are getting their point across in what they're writing. But we also are tasked with writing a note, a student note of our own. And that involves picking a topic, something related to the law. If you're on GLJ, it's usually something comparative, like comparing German law to American law. JCRSJ will have a lot to do with civil rights and justice, obviously. But what I think has been so great about being on a journal is that I spend my time living and breathing with this blue book right here. And the reason that I mention this thing is that this is a massive citation guide on how lawyers should be citing things. And a lot of judges care about this stuff. Everybody in the law cares about this stuff pretty intently. And something I didn't realize before coming to law school is how much formatting, structures, lack of typos, those things really matter in the legal field. Using one word instead of another can change the entire meaning of a statute. If you cite to the wrong case, you could lose your entire trial just because you cited the wrong opinion. So these are things that really matter. And as Natalie was talking about, we learn a lot about this stuff in our legal writing class. And if you have really refined citation and writing skills, you are much more likely to be selected by a judge, be selected by a law firm, because you have to submit, what's the word that I'm looking for? Writing samples, yes, of what your writing looks like. Because a lot of what lawyering is just writing, and you are writing a lot, and you're editing a lot, and you're researching a lot. And so journal is a great way to get really good at that. And that's why I really wanted to apply. It was a long process. It was about a 2-week process to apply to get on a journal. I'll briefly touch on what that process looked like. You don't really have to worry about that at this stage, but I think it was a fun process for me. It's essentially, we got a massive sheet of citations. And if you don't know what a citation is, I'll show a quick example. So this, oh no, you can't see because I have it blurred. Oh well, I'll try and stick closer. Maybe. Okay, you can kind of see. Anyways, you have a case name and then there are a bunch of numbers followed after it. Who cares? But they would give us about 30 of those on a blank piece of paper. And they would just say, spot the error. They just say, what's wrong with each one of these? And you'd be like, what? Well, Nathan, why does that take 2 weeks for you to do? Because every single one of them could have 10 to 15 separate errors that could be as small as forgetting to put a period at the end, even could be citing to the wrong case name. It could be that the font was the wrong size. And these are things that like you think are really small errors. But it's things that judges see. I'd see it over the summer all the time. If a party was citing something wrong consistently, or if they were consistently failing to blue book or failing to articulate their point in a proper way, or don't meet the court standards when filing a document, sometimes they just get tossed out. If you submit a document that is a couple pages over the page limit, that document isn't going to be read by the judge. And those are all things that you learn here at WNL and things that I've picked up as a part of journal. I'm sorry, that was a really long-winded answer, but I had to explain the entire citation system for non-lawyers.
No, I love it, Nathan. I mean, you are in your zone and I feel like you're enjoying it. So even though it's hard work, right? I think it's something that has really just broadened what your interests are, what you get to become a subject matter expert in. And I feel like you might be dreaming about that blue book. I love the tabs too.
Yeah, yeah.
The tabs are the way to go. Jane, can you share about the really cool experience that you were having this fall semester? Getting that kind of preview of working full time, and that it's a little bit different than what you're going to be doing post grad, which I love too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Natalie mentioned, she is doing her judicial externship placement as a requirement for what we have as 3L called actual practice. She touched on the clinics that we have that also satisfy this. But also, one of the aspects that satisfy this, we call it very affectionately WILF, WILF, which stands for Working in Law Full Time. That's what I'm doing as a 3L fall. I do believe it's like specific to 3L fall because we need to be back for graduation, which is really exciting. But essentially, I am, instead of a full load semester course, so Natalie is doing her placement while also taking classes. I am not in Lexington, Virginia. I'm actually in Dobbs Ferry, New York, currently at a personal injury firm that I was connected to. And I am doing this 9 to 5, sometimes more, sometimes less, to hit essentially a 425-hour requirement, which is basically just you're doing a full-time internship placement instead of classes with an asterisk. We haven't attached a class set to this program just to make sure we're on the right track. But it's not anything doctrinal. It's not anything like you're like going through cases and like I'm not taking any classes like that. But it's really exciting because you have opportunities to essentially apply to an internship that will take you for the fall and work there full time. Again, I'm doing personal injury, which is civil and very much different than prosecution and criminal, which is where I will be returning. But the really cool part about it is like what Deacon Jackson just said, you're getting experience of what it's like working full time. I think the internships do a great job of that as a 1L and 2L. But I think the unique perspective you have as a 3L, you've taken the core classes and you had a summer of substantive legal work. I guess I don't want to, like, it's like a asterisk, but like a lot of 1L summer positions aren't substantively like you're sitting there doing motions. Just you get a taste of what law looks like. My experience is that you do mostly research oriented work and writing oriented work as a 1L. As a 2L summary, they give you a little bit more substantive work. And then as a 3L now in WILF, I'm like I literally have on my to-do list, I have to draft 2 opposition motions to defense counsel's motion for summary judgment. And that's something I get to do because I've taken classes as a 1L like civil procedure. I know what a motion for summary judgment is. I've taken legal writing, like Natalie mentioned and Nathan mentioned. I have writing experience, and I'm almost a baby. I don't want to say baby lawyer, but I'm like a baby almost lawyer, right? And so having 2 full years of experience now, knowing what the law is and what it looks like and what's expected of you, I think Will has a very unique opportunity to, yeah, let you flex your muscles a little bit. And I was very lucky. I love this office, and they had also given me a post-grad position offer, which I had to sadly reject. But it's also for me in the future. I love PI. I love the fact that it's like the civil side of being able to go to court all the time and doing litigation, which I love. And so it's another opportunity and a networking experience. For me, we literally call them mentor attorneys. I have another mentor in my pocket, which never hurts to have. And so, yeah, Wolf is great. It also gives you an opportunity to be away from campus for a semester. It gives you an opportunity to do something that you don't think, maybe you wanted a shot at something that you couldn't get as a 1L or 2L. Fall internships usually are, not as competitive and not as like high speed. It's a little bit more, slow pace, more relaxed outside of the summer hours. And so I think Wolf is an awesome experience. If there's something you also like you're like, oh, I don't know, like I want to check, I want to try. Wolf is an awesome experience, just as the other all actual practice requirements are.
Thanks, Jane. And just in our last couple of minutes here, we have many students in their first summer that may be in an unpaid public interest-based position. And what we know is that can be tough. And so the law school has been very committed to providing different funding opportunities to support students in the summer. It may not cover everything, but it really does work to defray those costs to allow you to get that experience to really explore and develop those mentoring skills and those relationships. And so, Jane, can you just really quickly tell us about some of that funding you received that first summer?
Absolutely. So we have a couple of programs. Some of them are specific to the area you work in. And so I don't want to, so we have WILF, which Natalie mentioned. There's the Women in Law organization that will also partially fund people who are working with women or women's rights. I think all of these scholarship positions, please correct me if I'm wrong, they have like a minimum, you can't make over a certain amount to be eligible for some of them. There's the WILF one if you're working with women. There's Shepherd if you're working in public interest relating to the environment. That's another one. I am blanking on the name. I can't do this. But the general
NACN fund.
The NACN fund is So that's our primary public interest scholarship program, where if you're interested in working in public interest, but it is hard. Most of us have to move somewhere, rent. You have groceries, you have working in places maybe you don't have family, right? So that is an application process essentially that allows us to apply. You list out the logistics, or you list out where you're going to be, what funds how much the cost that you think you will incur. And the fund, essentially, there's a committee that reviews all these applications to, as fairly as possible, help out as many students as we can. And from there, you get financial assistance for for the period of your internship to be able to pursue something that you might not have been able to otherwise because it was unpaid. I believe there's also separately, there's the federal grant work study, which is essentially you'd get I believe it's minimum wage. You put in hours, and that's associated to your internship for a certain amount of your period. And so all that to say, again, this is very neat and very high detail oriented. But I know, as someone who's wanted to do public interest a lot and has always been so sad when it's I really want this position. I think this would be such a great option, but it's unpaid. I'm I can't do an unpaid internship in the city. Please help me out. It provides an opportunity for us to be able to pursue positions we want to do, and allows us to do so when we otherwise wouldn't be able to because it's not paid. Finances are important. Finances are very real and can be an obstacle if you don't have certain financial assistance. And so the school does a really good job. I very much appreciate it in giving us public interest people an opportunity to be supported and also upheld, because a fair number of our student population does go private. they do go into firms and sorts, but for like government and judicial internships and nonprofits, we do not go. We don't get left behind. We don't go unheard. We are supported by various scholarship opportunities.
Thank you, Jane. I feel like the school is so committed to that, and that is a place that is near and dear to me as well. And I'm glad that we're able to provide that support. Well, I just want to give a big thank you to our panelists. You all are so amazing. You work so hard, and I love to kind of see your hard work paying off and you getting to do the things that you're excited about and want to do. And again, if you have any questions to our prospective students on the call, please feel free to reach out to our office, to Dean Rodacker, and we can get you in touch with these amazing panelists. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Dean Rodacker to close us out. But thank you, everyone. I really have enjoyed our time together.
Thank you all so much again for your time today. If you have follow-up questions and you'd like to arrange to learn more about the school, the best email address to reach us at is lawadm@wlu.edu. And I'll put that into the chat right now. So thank you again for everybody. Have a great rest of your day. We really appreciate your time and the opportunity to share with you. Have a good one.